Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me again. It's an absolute pleasure every time you choose to do so. So recently I did a poll on my community tab like all the cool kids are doing, asking whether you preferred Linux content or productivity content, and you overwhelmingly voted for Linux content. So this video is going to be about productivity because I won't do what you tell me. I'm not a cog in your machine, man. So I am something of a productivity junkie. I've tried pretty much every gimmick and system that there is. I've done getting things done. I've done Pomodoro, you name it, I've tried it. But there's one thing that I have found to be consistently effective, and perhaps more importantly, to have a significant return on the time invested to set it all up, and that is time boxing. So, what is time boxing, or if you prefer, time blocking? Some people call it that. Essentially, it's just the practice of assigning tasks to finite blocks of time. That's basically it. Just do that. Thanks for watching. While it's difficult to know the intricacies of people's routines for sure, we know that Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Cal Newport, and even Benjamin Franklin use time boxing to some degree. Franklin not so much anymore because he's dead. His schedule is currently fairly static. So let's talk about why this is an effective technique, and it definitely is effective. I know it's anecdotal and all that, but I reckon that 10 scheduled hours is worth about 15 unscheduled hours on average, something like that. So how can that possibly be the case? Well, I think it's down to a couple of things. Firstly, there is our old friend Parkinson's law, which just states that any work will expand to the time allotted to it. If you have 6 hours to write an essay before the deadline, then by God, it takes 6 hours. If you have 3 hours to write the same essay under exam conditions, then it'll take 3 hours. And you'll often find that there isn't a significant difference in the material quality of the two essays. It's very possible that the 6-hour essay will be better in some ways, but not by a factor of 2, not even close. So, by deciding ahead of time the level of input this task warrants, you can get significantly more bang for your buck over the long term. Secondly, there is a psychological component to time boxing. Your present self right now is really good at deciding what your future self should do, right? Your present self is a master planner for the future. But your present self is universally terrible at deciding what to do right now. What is the one thing that you should do right now to be successful in the future? Well, subscribe to this channel and like this video. But besides that, it's a difficult question because you have so many options swirling in your head, and your lazy, fleshy body and your reward-focused monkey brain are now in play, and they suck at making good choices. And this is why to-do lists often don't work, because they have no sense of proportionality and priority. If you have a big list of things to do, your monkey brain will seek out those quick wins so that you can get that little shot of dopamine when you tick off the item, even if that quick win is not particularly important. So by scheduling these tasks in advance, you can leverage the full strength of your planning mindset and give those tasks some level of proportionality and priority without being tricked by your monkey brain. Okay, so let's look at how to time box. I'm going to use a web app here called Aika, which, full disclosure, I do own. But you can do most of the stuff I'm going to talk about here with pen and paper or a spreadsheet or Google Calendar if you want. So this is just my test account here, not my real account, so I don't give away anything about my horrific existence. So let's plan this Wednesday out, the 3rd of the 10th. No, the 10th of the 3rd, sorry. And we're just going to pick a colour and drag a box out. Aika uses 30-minute increments because I find that anything less than that starts to encourage micromanagement, which we don't really want. If it's a task that takes less than 30 minutes, we should batch it with other stuff. So what makes Aika different to something like a calendar is that it only allows one thing to occupy any given slot. And if you move them around, you can see that they squash the things below them. You can never have overlapping, so it's easy to rearrange them. And this is true if you move stuff as well. Okay, so let's say you have a beautiful schedule, but you've poorly estimated something, or there's something else that's come up. Well, you simply edit the schedule. If you're doing this on pen and paper, like Cal Newport does, then you can just have another column next to your old plan and draw some new blocks. If you're using something like Aika, you can just drag the blocks to fit the new schedule. And if you hold down Alt or Option when dragging down in Aika, it will push everything down, everything else later, instead of overwriting it, which can be useful if you just need to give yourself a little bit more time on something. You can just drag it down another half an hour. So the last thing I want to mention, and this is something specific to Aika, and really the whole reason I built this thing, is that if you use a digital solution and you keep your schedule up to date, then you get time tracking for free, which is one of the main reasons I think that time boxing is so great. You get prospective scheduling and retrospective time tracking in one. In Aika, you can assign blocks multiple tags here, and then review time spent based on these tags in the reporting section. So I can tag this block here with a client's name, for instance, Bill Gates, regular client of mine. And then I can check the report up here, which tells me that I have one block scheduled in the future with 3.5 hours scheduled. And as a consultant, this is super useful for me because it allows me to see where I'm spending my time and review if I'm getting the amount of value I would expect from that investment, right? In the future, I'd like to add a feature here which allows me to export a timesheet by tag by month, so I can use that for client billing. But that's something for another day, I think. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.